Welcome back to my channel, everyone. This is the design that I'm going to be attempting to create for this customer. They are a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I just went ahead and created this design in Word with the name in the blocked lettering, which is kind of close to the Dallas Cowboys lettering style, and then of course their star on the front side of the domino. So this is just going to be the process of me showing you what I did and how I did it. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing, and please also, if you like what I do, leave a like and a comment. Alright, so this part is just about me sealing the decals. I seal it with Mod Podge, and that's just to make sure that the color doesn't bleed once the epoxy touches it. I just go over all of it with a thin layer, and making sure that every inch of the star or whatever I'm using is covered up. And you'll be able to tell if it's done or not. When you look at it, it should be a gloss to it. And then after that, all I do is just cut them all out very precisely, and there you go. While I was editing, I noticed that this footage was missing, so I just wanted to come back real quick. It's after the fact, but I just wanted to show you what I was doing, what I did to get these measurements. This is a 3-part domino. So the first layer is going to be clear with a design, and if the second layer is going to be the color scheme, and then the third layer will be another clear with the customer's name on it. So this first layer is going to require a small layer, not much, just so that the design has something to lay in and stay in place. That is going to require approximately the total rectangle is going to take 0.5 ounces. So I just divided that how I wanted it. So the first layer is a thin layer, the second layer will be the thicker of the layers, and then the third layer is another thin layer. I'm going to put 0.1 on the first layer, 0.3 in the second layer, and 0.1 again on the third layer. That's equaling 0.5 ounces total. So in order for me to get all of the epoxy that I need just to cover every rectangle for the first layer, I'm going to do a 0.1 times the 28, which is 2.8. 2.8 is going to be the total amount, but since I need 2 cups, one for part A and one part B. Part A is going to be at 1.4 and part B is going to be at 1.4. So I want to get this up to 1.4 ounces. Okay. So it's a little over 1.4, but that's okay. It's not much. 1.4. Okay, so that's 1.4. Take the marker, mark the spot. So you see that this is reading 1.53. And so if I take this out, put this on here, and pour this in. It's also going to be at 1.53. So then you just also, again, you want to mark that. So I have the two, they're the same amount. So you want to just do this again for I'm going to do this again for the third layer the same exact way. And then for my second layer, it's going to be a total of, it's going to be the 0.3 ounce for the second layer in each mode. So that 0.3 times the number of rectangles, which is 28, is going to be an 8.4 total. So then I divide that by 2, and that gives me what I need to put in each cup, which is 4.2. So it's going to be 4.2 part A, 4.2 part B for my second layer. For my first and third layer, it'll be 1.4 ounces of part A, 1.4 ounces of part B. So that's just how I figured that out. It usually works out very well. And if you total those two, all those numbers up, the 8.4, the 2.8, and 2.8, you're going to come up with 14 total ounces, which is what I need completely for each mold, for the whole mold. So that's how I figured that all out. All right, hopefully that helps explain the way I do that. And now it's on to the next step. All right, and here I'm just want to pour in just a small layer on the bottom, which would actually end up being the top, but just a small layer, enough to get the stars in place, so that it doesn't float around. It does end up floating around anyway, but that'll just take a little time before. I found that I figured out that if I waited until the epoxy gets a little more tacky and then I place the star down, it doesn't move as much. So that's just a little tip I learned. So next time I do something this way, I'll wait and let the epoxy get a little more tacky before I place the sticker down or the decal down. And with me doing that, what I'm doing here is just making sure that the epoxy covers all of the bottom part of it. Also, what I learned was, if I'm going to do it this way, I should probably not fill it up as much. I don't want to fill it up next time as much. I don't want to cover the dots completely, because this mold that I have, the dots are pretty deep. So I don't want to cover it up. I kind of want to just leave it at whereas the epoxy is only getting to maybe the halfway point of the dot, so that when it's over, it isn't so clear. It isn't as see-through as it ended up being, and that's what I figured out what it was. I put too much epoxy in on this layer, and it was too much of a clear section, so the dots were seen pretty good. So that's what I learned on that part. And here I'm just popping any bubbles that I see in the corners, and spraying some alcohol on it, the 91% alcohol. And then now, of course, it's just laying the stars in. I wanted the points to be in the laying across the middle line of the domino. I'm just laying them all in, and then I'll arrange them and tighten it up a little bit. Alright, and here it is, about 4 to 6 hours later. The epoxy has hardened, not completely, but they're hard enough whereas I can go ahead and pour my second layer in. And the stars are solid, and they're not going to move anymore. Alright, so I have my second cup of epoxy all mixed up. Here I'm just splitting the cups up into two because I'm going to be using two different colors. So I just want to split these up, and then I'll add my blue and I'll add my white in each cup. Separating the two colors in two smaller cups. It's just easier for me to pour. It actually ended up being a little messy, but it's easier for me to pour them in when they're in a smaller cup. Just starting off pretty slow, making sure I don't overfill it. I do want to leave a little gap so that the second or the third layer can go in, which is going to be the name and a clear epoxy. And I'm making a mess here, and I'm going to end up turning the mold in a different direction, a different angle, because the drippage. So once I'm turning it, I can make sure that my blue stays on one side and my white stays on the other side, so that the blue won't drip over into the white of the previous one, and then the white won't drip into the blue in the next one. But yeah, it is messy, but I just have to be very careful. And what I'm seeing is there was a couple of times where I had the spillage off into the next one, and I think it's this one right here. It just spills completely into that mold, that next mold, or that next rectangle, and that one ended up having to be redone. It looks pretty messy, and once I demolded it, it came out pretty bad, and in that one right there. So I had to actually just take that whole thing out with the pipette and then redo it. So, but just be careful with it. And at this moment, you can see it's starting to bleed in, and it ended up turning out purple more than it did blue, which I had to correct in my next stage. Once it dried up or cured, I had to correct it, and I'll show you what I did there. So with this, I had to paint over this section because it ended up turning up purple. It went in a navy blue, but once it cured, it ended up purple. We figured out how to correct it if we just lay over, since I printed out my sticker with the color on it, the blue color on it. Once I put when I printed out the sticker, it already has the blue and the white printed into it. So once I laid it onto the actual domino mold, that blue that I painted onto the domino, it enhanced the color, and it actually ended up turning out the perfect shade of blue. So that was something I figured out how to do on the spot, basically, and it worked. And also on this last final layer, I'm just putting a little bit of epoxy in, not too much so that it will overflow, and then I will peel back the sticker paper and slide it into the mold. And after that, I just want to make sure that all of the air bubbles are out, and that the epoxy is from underneath the sticker. So it's just going slowly, making sure I slide the sticker in. Tweezers and the toothpick really help with this. And then again, just want to slide it in, push it down, get all the epoxy from underneath it. And eventually the epoxy will level itself out and cover the whole mold up. then the flashlight just helps me see the bubbles even better than in a dark room. So just flash a flashlight on it, and then you'll be able to see bubbles a lot better. Alright, and then I'll just cover it, and it's another wait, at least a minimum of 8 hours. I'm probably just gonna wait a whole 12 hours. So it ended up being just the next day I'll demold them and see what I have. Alright, next day, it's time to demold. And this is the satisfying and scary part of it. You did all of this work. You used up all this epoxy, all of this paper, all of the ink. And this is the time, this is it, when you find out if you have to redo everything. So this is the satisfying part and also the scary part at the same time. And here it is. This is it. They came out really good. I'm very happy with the way they turned out. Of course, I have some cleanup to do, some, shaving off those jagged edges, shaping them up, but I'm very happy with the way it turned out. And this is just the jagged edges that come along with the overspill. If you go too fast, you end up with some overspill but this is just a quick, easy thing, just an X-Acto knife or utility knife, and it'll come off, and you can just pop it off, just cut it off. And then this is just me sanding all of the edges, all 4 edges and corners, to make sure it's a nice soft transition and the dominoes not jagged and sharp edges, because that mold does leave really sharp edges. And this is from Dollar Tree. These markers I got off from Dollar Tree. They did pretty good, actually. Sometimes you think that Dollar Tree doesn't have good materials, but this really turned out good. Silver dots on the white square and white dots on the blue square. And then here it is, all done. I love the way these turned out. Now it's just a matter of getting them packed up and shipped off to my customer. I'm very happy with these. My first attempt with this design on the front part of the domino, but I'm happy with how it came out. So thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please hit that like button, leave a comment, and consider subscribing. And until next time, thanks a lot.